And of course, one of the most significant bills in the history of this country, the Treaty Principles Bill. ACT leader David Seymour joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, let's get into the big stuff. The looking at the 2024 and ahead, I guess, to 2025. The Treaty Principles Bill. Has there, in your personal moments, ever been a time when you thought, "Oh, is this all worth it"?
No. If anything, the level of opposition that we've had has come from two distinct types that are really the same when you think about it, and they have really reinforced that we need to have this debate. The first type is just the absolutely hysterical and really a tiny minority within Māoridom who get up and do hakas in the middle of Parliament and abusive and say you're a liar and say you're racist. And you say, look, we can't allow that to be the face or the voice of Māoridom, because there's a lot of good in the Māori world and they don't represent it. So that's the first type.
Yeah.
The other type are people, and they're all the same. They write emails to me saying, as a Pākehā, and I just write back and say, why did you find it necessary to tell me your race before you share your ideas? And what we seem to be facing is a group of people, whether they're Māori, whether they're Pākehā, whatever, who fundamentally believe that their identity, their adherence or their fealty to a group is more important than the inherent dignity that they have as an individual human being. And really, what this debate has turned into is not Māori versus Pākehā. It's not really even, it's not about race. It's not really even about the treaty. It's really about, are we a society that gives respect and dignity to each thinking and valuing human being, or are we some sort of backward-looking tribal place where you've got to tell people your race before your ideas get heard?
Well, how have you viewed the media coverage in general of this issue?
Well, pretty hopeless. I have to say, I think ZB is doing well commercially because it actually gives people a run. But I look at, I don't know, for example, TV1 had a piece recently where they gave more time to a couple of members of the public that came up and interrupted the interview than me, who they were interviewing. And not because their view was representative, in fact, their view's in the minority, but just because they are so inexperienced at TV1. And the funny thing is that they tell me privately that they're really worried about security and people interrupting interviews. But then if you go and interrupt their interview, they'll put you on TV and make you give you a platform. So, it's pretty difficult not to despair with the standards of media coverage. I think fundamentally we've got a problem now that we don't have newsrooms with a diversity of thought. It's far too much groupthink. And as a result, they are actually unable to produce news that works with the way that New Zealanders actually think, at least the majority of New Zealanders. And I only have to point you to the YouTube video of me getting interviewed by Jenny May Clarkson. That's been seen over 250,000 times. It's the most popular video on our YouTube.
Wow.
Now, that's probably 3 to 4 times more people than watched the show that morning on TV.
Yeah.
That shows you how much trouble they're in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the All Blacks got involved. How many people do you actually think, when it comes to the commentary in the media, have actually read the 3 clauses? And do you think we ever will get a public that have actually considered the clauses rather than just the emotion that gets whipped up?
Well, we're making enormous progress, and the great irony is I'm actually enhancing the mana and understanding of the treaty. So a lot of people are reading about it that might not have otherwise done so. And I'm doing that because I believe the treaty is ultimately a good document. It says the Crown has the right to govern, that it has an obligation to uphold people's rights, including their property rights, and it says all our rights are equal. I mean, it's a beautiful, one-page document to found a country on, It's just that's not how we've been using it for the last 50 years, and my bill is designed to restore those underlying principles. When people are confronted with the principles, they will say by about 2 to 1 that they're in favour of them. When people are asked, do they like the bill, usually probably about 40% will say no and 30% will say yes, the rest are unsure. And what that tells me is that the media have done a horrific job of actually presenting the facts in the bill, with a few exceptions.
Yeah. Look, it gets pretty aggressive out there as well. You get a lot of people having a crack at you. Just personally, how thick a skin do you have, and how do you actually cope with the personal pressure that comes with these sorts of issues?
Well, I haven't really had to worry about that because I haven't had any effective attacks. If somebody could stand up and give a logical speech and say, no, David, you're wrong. It would be better for New Zealand to be a sort of slightly unusual state divided into 2 races, and here's why it's a good idea. Then I'd say, okay, that's pretty tough. Maybe I'm wrong about all this, but nobody's done that. Probably the closest we've had is Jack Tame trying to tell me that Sweden is actually a bicultural state because the Sami in the far north of the country, about 30,000 of them have a separate parliament that makes a limited number of decisions about how they live. And good old Helmut Modlik in a debate, and good on him, tried to say that Indian reservations in the United States are a model that we should aspire to in New Zealand. I think at one point someone even told me Australia's done a better job with its race relations. I mean, you got to be kidding. I haven't needed a thick skin because all I've heard is noise and name calling and abuse. That's just, I got over that in about second year of primary school. What would really require a thick skin is having someone stand up and prove why I'm wrong.
So, David, you're about to step into being Deputy PM. Are you excited about that?
Yeah, I am. I think it's a great honour, but it's not for me. It's actually for 250,000 people who gave their party vote to ACT, and probably a lot more people who may not have voted for us last time, but basically share our values. We're a group of people who fundamentally believe that you should be able to make a difference in your own life. You should treat everyone as you find them, not be discriminated against, and really got beaten down. I mean, if you're a landlord, if you're an employer, if you're a farmer, if you're a licensed firearm owner, if you're just someone that likes free speech, we had a Prime Minister who promised kindness, but was very quick to kind of punish us through the laws and the regulations and the rhetoric that she used against us. A whole lot of people like that came out and said, well, actually, bugger you, we're going to vote ACT. And so I feel very proud as the leader of that movement to say, well, actually, our guy can be the Deputy Prime Minister too. In that sense, it's quite exciting.
Yeah, and your coalition partners, a lot of people were predicting that it would never work. It seems to be going all right so far. Have you had some quality time with Winston Peters?
No, I mean, for one thing, I wouldn't mind betting that he spent more time in other countries than at home. He's done a good job on the foreign minister. It's pretty grueling the travel. And for another thing, we're just kind of busy. And for a third thing, I never went into Parliament to make friends. I already got friends, mostly in Auckland. And if you went to Parliament, you went into politics to make friends with your competitors, then that would be a very sad state.
I guess the reason I asked is because, from obviously you guys seem to be a lot more at loggerheads in the campaign phase, but it seems that there's a sort of mutual respect that's kicked in. Would that be right?
I think that's fair, but I also think that you've got to look at the size of the economic challenge. I mean, we are really under pressure in New Zealand. We are not really delivering what most New Zealanders expect, that if you work hard and you get a house and you can bring up your kids and basically have a future. Yeah, we failed at that, and as a result, I think we really have to, be head down, bum up, trying to work out, well, how do how do you make this country work again? Because I think a lot of people it's not working, and that's why we've seen such large numbers of people leave. So, look, quite apart from any personal dynamic, when you're facing a crisis, and I think New Zealand is in a long, drawn-out crisis of how do we make this a place that people who grow up here want to stay. Then the personal stuff's not really a big issue.
You happy with the school lunches?
Well, when the school goes back, you'll see the first of the new school lunches, and we will have saved about $110 million this year, probably about $150 million the following year. Put this in context, if Labor had done it the way that we are proposing to do it, over the last 5 years they could have saved $800 million. That's now, of course they were borrowing all that, so that's now extra debt that we're paying interest on. Get the same result. So I'm pretty happy with what we've delivered in terms of the contract. Yeah. All eyes will be on watching what the contractors deliver for the kids.
Yeah. Any particular goals for 2025?
I want to see a lot more red tape gone. So the Ministry for Regulation has started in 2024 rolling out its sector reviews, where we just go through the sector, ask the people, wipe out the red tape, and we'll see that momentum pick up this year, because I think red tape is ultimately the main thing that is stopping us using our creativity. And I just want to keep growing ACT. I'm really proud of the way that Brooke Van Velden, Nicole McKee, Karen Schur, Simon Cord, Andrew Hoggard, Mark Cameron, I mean, they're all doing a tremendous job. Paramjit Parmar. I'm really lucky to have the MPs that I do, and I want to keep growing that team so that come 2026, people will say, well, look, the country's still got some big challenges, but if we want to keep the government and make it better, these are the ones to go with.
Good stuff. Hey, David, we really appreciate your time this morning. Have a great summer, and we'll catch up with you again and further on into the year.
You too, Tim. Go well.